Thank you for joining the Hudson 7 Drinking Water Council's hybrid monthly meeting. Today is Thursday, October the 19th. My name is Rebecca Martin. I'm the coordinator and consultant for the Hudson 7 and a non-voting member for tonight's Hudson 7 virtual meeting. Before we begin, we'd like to go over a few meeting guidelines and abbreviated procedures. The procedures are available in full on the Hudson 7's meeting page on their website, www.hudson7.org. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded. But if folks can mute if they're not speaking, that would be helpful. There we go. Thank you. So we're recording tonight's meeting. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube page immediately following this meeting. A link to that page can be found on our meeting page at www.hudson7.org. The public is advised to subscribe to this channel to receive notifications when meetings begin. All video agendas and minutes are available to the public on the Hudson 7's website. Hudson 7 council members, please mute yourself as we just did to avoid background noise. Mayor Gary Bassett is here this evening to lead the meeting. But before we begin, I'm just going to introduce our voting members first. We have at the Poughkeepsie Water Treatment Facility in Poughkeepsie, New York, Devin Rigalini. Thank you, Rigalino. Thank you, from Dutchess County. I'm having a little trouble seeing, but Nick Butler from the town of Esopus, Russ Gilmore from the town of Lloyd. We have Dottie DeNoble. Sorry, Dottie, I'm just going to introduce you now. I know you're not a voting member, but our technical advisor. And who's in the room across from you? You're muted.
Eric Weinstein. I'm from Hyde Park. Lynn usually comes, but she's away on vacation this week.
Oh, welcome. Thanks for coming.
I've been to a previous meeting.
Great. Nice to see you. We have Mayor Gary Bassett from the village of Rhinebeck, Elizabeth Spinzia from the town of Rhinebeck. Great. We have technical advisors Dan Shapley from Riverkeeper, Emily Svensson, Paul Melrose, and we have Ben Gannon from Ulster County. Thanks for coming. I'm letting a few others in. Gary, you can take over. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca, and welcome everybody. Sorry for being remote, but sometimes it works out, and I'm glad we can do this meeting in a hybrid fashion. So with that, I'd like to get started with the meeting. Rebecca, can you share the agenda? Perfect. Thank you. Oops, I lost it on my screen. Got it. All right. So first order of business, we did a roll call. As everybody's aware, we do not have a quorum tonight, so we will not be voting on anything going forward for this meeting. So the next item is the approval of meeting minutes, which we will adjourn till our next meeting. So I'm going to skip to item 4 with Elizabeth, our treasurer's report.
Hi, everybody. We opened our account on the 21st of August. We have received everybody's payment except for Dutchess and Ulster counties. So we have a balance of $2,039.79. Unfortunately, this meant that we were unable to pay Rebecca for October. We did have a donation to cover her fee, which will be repaid once we receive payment from Dutchess and Ulster. It's a little disappointing that it took 3.5 months and we don't have payments. I will get the invoices out to everybody probably next week, and I will get them to the voting members if that's okay. And the voting members could make sure that they're given to whoever needs to be paid, or would you like for me to handle it in another way? I'm concerned that we get payment as soon as possible in January so that we can pay our coordinator. I'd just like a little discussion about that. Again, we have not received Dutchess and Ulster's $10,416.55 dues. So we don't have enough to pay Rebecca for October, November, or December until we do.
Well, I'm happy to have discussion per your request, Elizabeth. I just want to say for Dutchess County, you know, I apologies that it's taken so long. It's a big machine. It's slow moving, unfortunately. The way the county operates, we are not able to distribute funds without a grant agreement in place to tether that payment to.
Is it
So-
Devin?
Yes, this is Devin from the county.
Thanks, Devin. I know, and you know, we're just getting started, and I know, and I don't think we need to apologize. I just hope we can work together to get it paid sooner, because not paying Rebecca.
Absolutely, and I'm allowed, if I can finish, I'll clarify that. So we have a grant agreement in place now. The reason it took so long to get the grant agreement in place is because we needed a scope of services attached. The scope of services was the work program that was supposed to have come out of the August meeting. As you all know, we didn't meet in August, so it got delayed. No excuses, it took a long time. The money will be hitting the account, the Hudson 7 account tomorrow. If it does not, please let me know. And moving forward, the grant agreement is not just for this one time. The grant agreement is for a 3-year period. So we will not have to go through this process again of getting a grant agreement in place. We will be good for the rest of the $50,000 that we owe for the remainder of 24 and 25. So I don't anticipate any delays moving forward. And again, apologies to Rebecca and to the council, but I think that we won't be experiencing this, at least from Dutchess again.
Thank you. And shall I get the invoice to you, Devin? Is that the
Yes.
best way to do it? Is it
Yes.
okay, Gary, that I get the invoices to the voting members and the voting members make sure that we're paid?
Yes, Elizabeth, I think that's the way it should work and must work.
Okay. Anyone from Ulster County?
Hi, Elizabeth, this is Ben. Yeah, I
Ben.
got confirmation from our finance department and our comptroller that the check should have been cut today.
Fantastic. All right, and I'll get it to you, Ben, as well.
Yes, I think Europa and I would be the best way to do that. Thank you.
Not March.
I think the invoices for speed of processing should probably go to us. And
Okay, Ben.
feel free
Terrific.
to-
I know it's getting started. I just, you know, Rebecca needs to be paid on time, and we all need to work together to make sure that this happens quicker in January.
Yep, totally agree.
Right.
And I'm sorry again for the apology or the delay.
We'll iron it out hopefully next year. And Rebecca, thank you for your patience.
Hey, Ben, are you filling in as the alternate then for Amanda? What's the order over there in terms of in Ulster County right now?
Yeah, that's I guess how I would describe my role here is I don't know if I'm an official alternate, but you know, filling in for Amanda, which you can't attend.
So maybe what we should do at our next meeting, when we can vote, Ben, we should probably vote you in as the alternate as a replacement for Amanda, if you work that out, okay?
Okay, yeah, I know Rebecca and Amanda have been chatting about the process, so I'll
Okay.
stay-
All right, well, let's try to iron it out and make sure we have the right person, and I want to make sure you guys get a vote at the table.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Gary, next month, I think what I can do is have the list of all of our council members and when they were appointed, so we can see what's
Good
coming
idea.
up for next year, including
Yep.
yeah, so I'll put that together. That's part of the infrastructure work.
Okay. All right, so
Well,
thank you,
Elizabeth-
Elizabeth.
Can I propose an alternative for me when I'm not available for next year? Or is that, I mean, is this something, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so all of us, Elizabeth, should have an alternate. I have to do the same in the village of Rhinebeck because I no longer have an alternate. So you should have an alternate in place as well.
Okay, so I could get that information to Rebecca and that can be on the resolution.
Yep,
Thank you.
because I have to
Can
do the same.
I'm
Can I
done.
ask something too? This is Devin again from Dutchess. So my understanding, the way the bylaws are written is the primary must be an elected official and the alternate can be their designee. So for the county, obviously, you know, that would be our county executive and I'm the alternate. So am I allowed to have an alternate if Bill O'Neill designates a second, or is he only allowed one alternate?
Bill's not
That's a
elected.
good, yeah, that's a good question, Devin. Have an alternate for the alternate.
But Bill's not elected.
So, yeah, this is something we haven't really proposed for an alternate yet to have a second alternate. So I would say right now, since it's not in our bylaws, I would say no, you're the only alternate.
And the same would be for Ulster?
Same for Ulster, yeah. So, but what I'm asking Ben to do is see if he's gonna replace Amanda and work that out before the next
Okay.
meeting.
I'd like
Okay.
a point of order to find out how a county executive who isn't elected could be primary member.
Elizabeth, he's the county executive right now, and he's been appointed by the county to do that. So I don't think I don't think there's any other choice in that matter. So I'd rather just let that go because it's gonna be changed in the next month or so. Right now, we have Devin, and we gotta work on if Devin's absent, who the alternate is.
Yeah, let's put it on the agenda for next month and we'll talk it all through.
Yep.
And questions throughout the month is good. If anybody wants to reach out.
All right, so
Ulster
moving
County
on.
has this, Ulster County has the same problem. Amanda's not elected and Ben's not elected.
Well,
Well,
but
but
Jen-
they're
Jen-
the alternate, Paul.
right.
The alternates do not have to be elected.
Jen Metzger is the primary,
Yes.
County Executive Jen Metzger in Ulster. All right,
I think it's, well, whatever, you've
Yeah.
heard my opinion. It should be, we should maybe amend the language.
We're gonna be doing a lot of that in the near future. Okay, so we can't vote on accepting the treasurer's report, so we'll take it as it stands. Is there any other questions for the treasurer report? All right, hearing none, we're gonna move on. Rebecca, can you start going through your report?
yeah. So this is just a basic framework for you all. It's in your source materials. In October, just a recap, the work centered around the council's organizational structure, the Hudson River anchoring rule change, also known as the anchorages campaign, Hudson River PCBs, and meeting with drinking water plant leadership to advance the Hudson Seven's goals and to play a supportive role with our water treatment plants. So the actions taken, the way this works, there's an action taken and a result, just so you can see, and links for you to click on at your leisure. So this month, as usual, just organizing the Hudson 7 Council materials to facilitate monthly meetings, and all of those materials can be found on your website, hudson7.org. I have a weekly one-on-one with Mayor Bassett. And I'm just, yes, and on here you can see our running agenda. So you can see all the things that we're covering. I met with Gary, Captain John Lipscomb, and Drew Gamels. Drew Gamels is the staff attorney at Riverkeeper. Captain John is involved in the Anchorage campaign and is also a technical advisor on our committee for anchorages. The New York Times had reached out to Riverkeeper and has interviewed John and Drew about the anchorages and Riverkeeper's recent letter that you all got last month, and asked about meeting with the Hudson 7. So we met and we were able to create talking points for Gary for the New York Times interview, which is good for you all to see if you'd like to take a look at it, for all of us in general, based on where we are currently. We had a Hudson 7 Anchorage committee meeting that was really productive, and we'll meet again in a couple of weeks. Sending out a doodle poll, Nick and others who are participating and on the committee. And here is the link to our running agenda, where the Hudson 7 discussed collecting information to prepare to draft an RNA, a regulated navigation. Dan, is it an assessment? An RNA. We're getting ready. We can talk.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. All of that information is there for you. It's been busy. We also organized a productive call with our legal consultant, Ian McDonald, with Mayor Bassett to discuss framework for the Hudson Sevens 501c3. And as you know, we received a legal memo that you all got this morning. It arrived last night for your review. We can discuss a little today, but definitely more next month. We met with Sarah Lee. We got an outreach from Sarah Lee of the Dutchess County IDA to discuss TDI's pilot request. No current action is taken on TDI in the pilot. I attended the Hudson River PCB's Community Advisory Group, the CAG's quarterly meeting. We're anticipating the third 5-year review, as you know, and the Hudson 7 has been invited by the EPA's consultant to have a seat on the CAG going forward for their quarterly meetings, which we'll discuss tonight. And I prepared notes for you. It was a long meeting, 3 hours. There's a link to the notes from the CAG, including who was there, etc., the presentations for you to review. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And then finally, to go along with the effort that I'm making is to visit all of the water treatment facilities and the leadership. Last month I met with Randy. This month I was able to have a great conversation with Nick. We discussed many things, including I just went in one lobe and out the other in my car. Nick, what is it, the protections, the tests,
We were talking about subpart 5-1, 5-4.
Yes.
Water operations.
Right, and the tests the water operators perform.
Right, the amount of credits that
Right.
Licensed water operators have to maintain within 3
Right.
years.
Right, I learned a lot. It's been great to meet with the water operators, and I'm going to visit the town of Esopus on Wednesday, the 25th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. to sit with Nick and hopefully meet some of the staff there. Next month, we're going to start talking about a budget with the executive committee. I'm going to continue to work on the framework for the Hudson 7 to hopefully get that moving this year if we can. I'll be hopefully meeting with Brian Alex from the Village of Rhinebeck's drinking water plant. Working on PowerPoints, general PowerPoints for the council to do their presentations. We're going to continue on anchorages. We're developing a filing system for RNA materials and working to set up a meeting with the DECs, Heather Gearloff and the Hudson 7. And we'll continue to watch for the upcoming EM and CP, the Environmental Management and Construction Plan, for TDI and Chippy, which we anticipate, being released sometime in early 2024. So that is my report for this month.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does anybody have any questions?
No, very good.
Very thorough, thank you.
I have a question on the meeting with Heather Gearloff. I'm wondering if you might want me to be part of that since I'm the representative on the HREMAC for the Hudson 7. It's up to you.
Yeah, Emily, my opinion is anything you'd meet with on anybody in the Hudson 7, on behalf of the Hudson 7, we should just get a document report on it so it can be shared with everybody. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm not sure what the purpose of the meeting is, but since I represent the Hudson 7 on the Estuary Programs Advisory Committee, I thought you might want me to be in the loop on that conversation. I can read about it afterwards if you prefer, but I'm just offering.
I'm confused. Which meeting? In the loop on which meeting?
So the DEC in setting up a meeting with Heather Gearloff has to do with the concerns with the anchorages and to speak about water quality and habitat concerns. So I think it would be great to have Emily there. And I can loop you in.
Yeah, let's.
When that happens. And as you know, Emily, you're also welcome to join the anchorages. You can, if you're interested, you can join that committee to hear
Right.
what's going on.
Sure, yeah, why don't you put me down for that and I'll come if I can.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Emily, that'd be great. We had our first meeting last month was really, as Rebecca said, very productive in terms of trying to set a direction for what we need to do and gather the data. And that's really the key, is trying to gather the data that we need. So we created a very extensive list of documentation that we can start to pull from to propose a recommendation. Okay, no other questions? We'll move on to the next item. Rebecca, communications.
So there's one other item here, which is just the Hudson 7 goals
Oh.
document in my work plan. And if there aren't any comments or questions about that, we didn't hear any. We were going to just touch base on that this meeting. As
You're right.
usual, all these materials are in the source file that you receive with the agenda and minutes. And I did send it again this morning just as a refresher.
So that was sent out that was presented last month, and it was if there's anybody wanted to make any input to it. So I have not received any either. So Rebecca, I think we're good to go. Let's keep the goals, let's keep it in line.
Okay. Great. I'll update that timeline so people can see the granular steps and put it up for the public to see.
Yep.
Great. All right. So communications, we had one addition tonight. Additions to the agenda are highlighted. They weren't originally there, just so you're aware. So the first communication was from Emily Svensson, our technical advisor on land use, sharing a wetland webinar that's occurring on Monday, October the 23rd. It's co-presented by Emily. And there's a link here to register for anybody who's interested. And that link is on our website as well, hudson7.org.
I say one thing about that.
Sure.
Just connecting the dots on the drinking water source protection program hasn't gotten to this point yet, but wetlands protection is sort of one of the most, obvious things that at the local level municipalities can do more of, and Emily will teach you how if you attend. But the DWSP2 plan is going to be set up, with different sections. One section being like what each municipality can do within their own power. So this would be a good example of one of those things you could do. So it's a great opportunity. I hope folks can take it up. I know several of the towns have wetlands laws, but the state level laws have changed, the federal framework has changed, and there might be reason to update. So thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Great. The EPA Workforce Development Grants was submitted by Paul Melrose. And you all have seen that. And I just wanted to highlight that the Village of Rhinebeck received $5.5 million short-term interest-free financing for the planning, design, and construction of upgrades to the village's wastewater treatment and collection system. That's great, Gary and team.
Yeah.
And finally, this morning, Paul, or yesterday, Paul, or maybe it was a few days ago, Paul, sorry, submitted a training program on water systems in Middletown on November the 9th that was sent out to all the water operators this morning for their review. And I don't know if anybody has anything else to add. That's communications for this month.
All right, very good. Is there anybody online for public comment? I don't see anybody.
There's not.
Right.
We just wanted to comment that this training program is for operators, and as was mentioned by Rebecca, operators are required to get CEUs to maintain their license. So this is very important. It's they're going to get 5 CEUs, which is really great. It only costs $75, and it's in Middletown, and it's sponsored by the Hudson Valley Waterworks Conference. Something that maybe we should be talking to.
Great suggestion, Paul. Thank you. Okay, reports and actions on old business. Let's dive into a little bit about the Hudson 7 501c3 process. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read the communications that our attorney Ian McDonald has sent out, but I'm going to give you a very high level overview of this. We're making great progress in terms of defining what the organization will look like. And if you think about it, it's what Ian is proposing that we do is create what I'm going to call a two-tier structure. And that two-tier structure, tier one is a board, almost like a corporate board that has files for a corporate filing and also files for a 501c3 so that they can raise money and promote it. So that tier one will have a minimum of 3 board members and a treasurer on it to be able to serve and act as a board, but that's the minimum that we need to have. We can have more. And the board members on that executive board can also be on our current board, which is a tier 2. So tier 1, think about it as kind of the corporate structure. They will be responsible for raising money. Excuse me a second. Sorry, I forgot to mute my phone. So that top level tier, they can raise money. They'll have the 501c3 status. People can write off the donations to that. And they will be the ones that the tier 2, which is kind of like our council today, exactly like it looks like today. We would go to them and say, here's how much we need. They will be responsible for going out and obtaining the funds that we need. And we would also go to them to say, okay, we need payment for whatever, and they will handle that process for us and allocate the money to our structure to be able to do the work. So one is tier 1 corporate, tier 2 kind of our working organization as we see it today. The bylaws can be very similar. We're going to have to get into modifying the bylaws a little bit, and more of that to come, but what they're suggesting is that this creates a model for us to not only raise money, have money, but have an organization that can do that, that's independent of the working organization that we have today. So that's it. What I'd like to do and what I'm proposing is that we set up an executive meeting with everybody on the executive team to review all this and then come back with a recommendation to this council for going forward. Any questions?
I just sent an email, Gary, to you and Rebecca with a couple of other examples. I don't want to ask anyone to back up, but just to throw into the mix a couple of examples of how other organizations have incorporated that are made of multiple municipalities, to consider whether one of those models might work rather than creating a second organization. So I'm just letting you know, I sent those by email. We don't have to talk at length, but.
All right, that's good. Let's look at that. I mean, that is where we were starting at, and we tried to do that, but it became a little bit more convoluted in terms of elected officials and raising money and conflict and all of that kind of stuff. So Ian came back with the proposal of creating this, what I call this 2-tier approach.
Yeah, and I haven't been involved in all the discussions. So if you're looking to raise money from organizations that can only donate to nonprofits, that might be a consideration. I don't know what the ideas are.
Yeah, that's what we're looking to do going forward as well. We anticipate having more expenses, and being able to go out and have donations would be useful to us.
So
Gary,
sorry, just real quick, and I'm highlighting this, the directive to Ian was to help us to understand how to set something up that would allow the Hudson 7 to fundraise, educate, and to advocate. So that's the basis of his memo here.
I really encourage all of you to read this and shoot out to both Rebecca and I questions so that we can take it forward, and then we can set up. I'm going to work with Rebecca to set up a meeting with the executive team to then go over all of this.
And thanks for
Gary,
your comments, Emily.
This is Devin. I just want to ask, so I read through the memo and I'm trying to understand, so I like that he's explained the differences between the 501c3 and the 501c4. This proposal to sort of keep the Hudson 7 as is, but with another nonprofit tier above, is this because then this group could both fundraise as well as still do lobbying, whereas a 501c3 by itself cannot? I'm trying to understand what the benefit we get from having two tiers is over just picking a 501c3 or a 501c4.
So Devin, I can't remember all the facts that Ian went over in terms of trying to get to this structure, I'll be honest with you. But having that corporate structure and having the corporation and having that corporation have the 501c3 gave us the most flexibility to be able to work with having donations and raising money, right? And not impacting where we're on our current board is elected officials, which gets convoluted in terms of having elected officials go out and do that.
Okay.
We can get a better definition if you like, but that's the net of how I'm reading it.
One thing that's also available to the council is I asked if Ian would come in, if the council requested it, to be able to outline what he's recommending here, but I didn't want to do it tonight because I wanted you all to have the opportunity to read the memo. So we can have Ian in next month if you'd like, or during the executive team if they're going to get together and discuss this so that they can make recommendations or answer questions, but all of that's available and we can pull it together. We could have him at both meetings if the council would prefer, as it's only about 30 minutes of his time each time. So it's an option, probably a good one.
I think this is a big decision, so it would be helpful if we could have a specific meeting where we have him and we just focus on this rather than squeezing it into a larger agenda. That would be my recommendation.
I'm totally fine with that, Devin, because it is a big decision.
Great. No problem.
All right. But first off, is everybody okay if I just meet with the executive team and we kind of go over it and formulate their questions and action items, and then we can take things more back to Ian and then hopefully come back, have Ian then come prepared to one of our meetings?
We
I
can't
know we can't vote on it, but
okay.
we can't vote. I'm just like
Yes.
questions.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So
Go
we'll
for it.
proceed. We'll better proceed that way. All right, so let's move on. So Rebecca, do you want to talk about, or Dan, you want to talk about the PCB Community Advisory Group, or is that Rebecca?
Yep. So the Community Advisory Group, the Hudson River PCB CAG, the Community Advisory Group, has seats available for partners, formerly stakeholders, that they appoint to the CAG to help to it's essentially having a seat at the table to work with the EPA, and it's especially important now with the upcoming 5-year review, the third 5-year review. And the Hudson 7's been advocating with Riverkeeper and Scenic Hudson since the start of the year, and Clearwater, in order to press the EPA's consulting firm, this CBI, to open up seats for lower Hudson organizations. And so we finally have succeeded there, and the Hudson 7 has been invited to serve on the CAG. There's a lot of information about a CAG, but essentially we would have a seat. They meet quarterly, sometimes more regularly. There's an administrative subcommittee, so the Hudson 7 could help to, if they'd like, having a seat and attending meetings. There's committee work that can help to influence the way the public participation work is done in outreach, etc. So now the Hudson 7 can appoint someone from the council to serve on the CAG. And I've been doing this for nearly a year. I'm happy to fill that role for the Hudson 7 if the Hudson 7 wants. unless there's somebody else on the Hudson 7 who would prefer to be on the CAG. So it's up to the Hudson 7 to make that appointment, which we can't do tonight, but we can do it next month. The next CAG meeting will occur maybe in January or February, not sure. And I'm gonna go anyway. You can, it's open to the public, so you can go as a public, member of the public, and that's what I did this month. And those are the notes that you have in my report to review. So that's the overview of what this item is.
Randy, I
Thank
would be interested in participating in that.
That would be awesome. So, Randy, are you putting your hand up to serve on the CAG for the Hudson 7? Wow, great.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's amazing. Thank you,
Yeah, I
Randy.
can do that.
We can't vote on it, Randy, but we can put it on the agenda for next month.
Thank you,
That's great.
Randy. That's exciting. Great.
Rebecca, just so everyone here knows too, I've been asked to be the Dutchess County rep on the CAG, so I'll be attending those as well. So if Randy ever needs a backup, or I can also supply notes and stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
I'm
think we're
glad to
gonna
hear
have
that they're moving and grooving. In part
we'll have
because of
we'll
your
have a nice
advocacy.
place.
The Hudson 7's done some great advocacy to move the needle in the lower Hudson, because they've been asking for years, organizations. So good work.
Excellent. Okay. Paul, there's a lot of changes coming, as I understand, with the lead copper rule improvements. I don't want to spend a lot of time going into it, but if you could summarize some of that. Today, this past week, NICOM has held a public workshop for all, village and town, or I think anybody that's involved with this to attend from villages and cities. And there's been some great information given out of that. But if you're following it as well, if you could summarize some of those for everybody to know.
Okay, I think the biggest thing is that they're going to try to identify lead replacements in environmental justice and equity areas. And also they're going to try to strengthen the compliance tap sampling plan for communities at risk. And then they're going to try to reduce the complexity of the regulations for determining the action and trigger levels. But it will not change the October 16th, 2024 deadline to complete the lead service inventories and the action plan. That's it. Is that short enough?
Thank you.
That's good.
Any questions for Paul on that? All right. I didn't see Mike tag in today. Randy, you want to give up an update on the DBSP2? I mean, not Randy, Dan.
Sure. Mike's been doing a great job of guiding us over the last period of time here. Our last discussion was starting to draft management actions that would go into the plan that reflect some of the priority issues that we've discussed over the course of the planning sessions. And as I kind of described earlier briefly with the wetlands comment, there are different sort of zones of management and entities who have a role. So there's going to be a section that is focused on what municipalities who are, members of the Hudson 7 can do at home with their own, within their own borders and authorities. That's, we know, important, but relatively limited. And then there'll be sections that really look in wider areas at risks to water quality and who the decision makers are and how the Hudson 7 might improve or develop the engagement they need with those actors in order to better protect the supply. So for instance, the Coast Guard, as we know, is responsible for spill response and planning. So that would be an example of how to manage, working with the Coast Guard on those plans to protect the water supply. would be an example of, that would be in the plan, sort of looking outside of the borders of the communities, but what needs to happen. So it's definitely rooted in a lot of the discussions that have happened over years here and some of the work that's already been done, but it'll be putting that down on paper and trying to define a path forward for the group.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? All right, and the last thing was the Anchorage. John is not here to talk about the effort that's going on there in terms of establishing this RNA for our region. If everybody remembers, what was proposed was a 200 foot or 200 yard perimeter around each one of our intakes. It was generally agreed to that was not acceptable because the anchors themselves, when they're dropped, they drag all over the place, and 200 yards is not acceptable, from that aspect. But we also had to deal directly with the spill response and spill prevention and being able to, bring that front and center for everybody. So all of that we're in a data collection mode right now to be able to establish the information that we need to then present our case back to the Coast Guard. I mean, the Coast Guard in this case, they're the messenger, they're not the culprit, but we're going to try to treat them as more of a messenger and not go after them directly. But we need to be able to very clearly define what our area is. And one of the things we talked about was that they've already defined this 15 mile north, and I forget how many miles south. I just saw it there. 7 miles south.
Yeah.
Right. As our general area, but within that area, we also have the marine. I forget the name of it. What's the anchorage there where it's in Hyde Park, right?
19A.
Yeah, 19A. And so it's how do we separate that and how do we make that so it's all part of, the exclusion area in our request back to them. So we're going to have another meeting. Again, we're trying to set it up in 2 weeks to review where we have and then be able to start drafting some technical data to put together to make a response and present it to the committee before we do that. Questions?
Emily, I'll make sure you're added.
Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else, anybody have anything they want to add before we adjourn? Hearing none, we can't vote, but we will be adjourning today, and I'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.